everyone, what's going on? Nexius here. Now, recently I've been kind of doing challenge modes on my monk. I did a couple gold ones. I got them all gold on the first try. I had some really good teachers, but I also had a really good talent and glyph build. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my talent build, my glyph build, a couple of tips on how I actually did a lot of DPS, and of course I also want to show you guys some gameplay of what a challenge mode is. Maybe if you guys watch it, you can monitor kind of how I'm playing. I'm also going to be uploading separate videos of every single gold challenge mode I've done, so you guys can see exactly how my teammates and my partners were explaining what to do and how to get gold on it. So in this video, we are going to be focusing on the build itself. So for talents, it's very important that we focus around Chi Torpedo. The reason for this is because it does a lot of damage. I will go into specifics as I go through this guide. So in terms of the first talent row, Momentum and Tiger's Lust are strictly mobility increases, whereas Celerity can both be used for mobility and damage. And the way it increases your damage is that it gives you an extra Chi Torpedo charge, and it also reduces the cooldown on it, giving you more Chi Torpedoes, which provides extra damage and healing to you. And of course, if your party is in range, they also get some extra healing as well. So Celerity is very important for not only the mobility compared to the other two, but also the damage as well. For the next talent choice, we have Chi Burst. Chi Burst is really good because in CMs, big pulls are very common, making Chi Burst the best talent of choice. And the reason for this is because Zen Sphere doesn't do a whole lot. It's pretty weak. Chi Wave is more of a single target. It does go to multiple targets, but it's not really an AoE talent. And Chi Burst not only does it hit everything in a line, but the damage also doesn't split based on how many mobs are there. So in this CM, or most CMs, it's mostly based around big pulls. So the damage will not split. It's going to do full damage to every single mob it hits, which is a huge damage amount. So Chi Burst is definitely the best talent choice when it comes to the level 30 tier. For the level 45 tier, I would recommend Ascension. CMs scale down your gear, which lowers your haste, and of course that also lowers your energy regeneration. You will also be speccing in a Chi Explosion for cleave damage and tie grab regeneration from the Chi Explosion. So between these two factors of lowering your haste and energy regeneration, and of course you're also going Chi Explosion, I recommend that you pick up Ascension for the energy regeneration, and it's just much more valuable than Chi Brute in my opinion when it comes to these specific cases. For the level 60 tier, I would recommend Leg Sweep. With big pulls being very common and gear being scaled down, any form of damage mitigation is very important to your group. Leg Sweep will hit every target in range for 5 seconds, giving your tank and healer breathing room as you DPS them all down in that big trash pull. So Leg Sweep is very important. A lot of trash can be stunned, and with the big trash pulls, you can stun a lot of them for 5 seconds, which allows you to have your tank and healer catch up in terms of healing the tank, or just simply not having to use the defensive cooldown there. So Leg Sweep is very important. It's also a pretty short cooldown, which helps a lot since CMs are extremely fast. When it comes to the 75 tier, this is where you get a little bit of a choice. You have Healing Elixirs or Diffuse Magic. If you're not very good with boss mechanics, or you are really bad at taking a lot of damage, perhaps Diffuse Magic will be more useful for you. Personally, I would recommend Healing Elixirs either way though, because it's just a better talent. It provides a lot more self-healing throughout the entire run. It procs every 18 seconds, and if you get low on a boss fight, sometimes if you drop to 35%, it's going to automatically proc. So I feel like Healing Elixirs is a much better talent choice than Diffuse Magic, but there might be that rare case where something may put you down extremely low and you need to save yourself and hope you don't die, so Diffuse Magic could be useful in that case, but overall I would say in most cases Healing Elixirs is a much better choice. When it comes to the 90 tier, you really do have two choices, but trust me, the most obvious choice is Chi Torpedo. I'm sure some people will want to run Rushing Jadewind just to give them an excuse, since most of the CMs are based around trash pulls, but trust me, Chi Torpedo is 1,000 times better, because paired with Celerity and Glyph Victory Roll, Chi Torpedo is borderline broken in big trash pulls, since every time you kill a mob, you gain a charge of Chi Torpedo. If the tank pulls enough, which they should be since you're going for gold in most cases, you can easily get 5 or more Chi Torpedoes in a single big trash pull. This is not only a ridiculous amount of cleave damage, but it's also a great amount of healing to you and any party member beside you, which is normally the tank and other melee DPS, which helps keep your party alive. So it's got that kind of utility as well, between the party healing and of course not just damage. The self-healing is also great in boss fights, since it will also allow your healer to focus on other party members more, since you don't have to be healed as much. And one of the biggest reasons why Chi Torpedo is amazing, besides the Glyph of Victory Roll combo, is that its damage is just like Chi Burst in the sense that it does not split based on how many targets you're hitting. So it's going to be doing full damage to every target it hits, which is a lot of damage since you're going to have a lot of mobs together in the big pulls. So Chi Torpedo and Chi Burst are just absolutely amazing in cleave damage, so Chi Torpedo I recommend by far. But if you want to be a hipster and you want an excuse to run Rushing Jadewind, you could do this, but anyone that has a brain will be pretty upset with you. So overall, I would say say just go Chi Torpedo. Now, for the final talent, we do have Chi Explosion. Chi Explosion is by far the best talent, even though energy regeneration is not the best due to our stats being scaled down, but the significant increase in tag grab regeneration, and of course its cleave damage at 4 Chi, makes it a very, by far, best choice compared to Serenity or, of course, Hurricane Strike. Since CMs are mostly based around cleave damage and big mob pulls, the cleave damage is just much better. Plus, having all of that Tiger Eye generation is really good for your Chi Torpedo and Fist of Fury, your Chi Burst, and everything else. So, boss fights, cleave damage, the Tiger Eye generation is the main reason you would go Chi Explosion. Now, when it comes to glyphs, this one is kind of easy. Some of you guys may be wondering why the certain build, but trust me, there's very good explanations for this. So the first glyph is Victory Roll. You want Glyph of Victory Roll because big trash pulls will provide you with plenty of Chi Torpedo charges for massive damage and healing, since you're going to be getting a lot of Chi Torpedoes, and of course CMs are mostly based around that. So between Chi Torpedo being one of your biggest damage dealers and really good for healing, Victory Roll is very important for this. In terms of the second glyph, I recommend Floating Butterfly. Besides Chi Torpedo, Fist of Fury is your main source of damage, especially in boss fights. With mechanics constantly commanding you to move very often, it is very common that you will have to move while channeling Fist of Fury. Not having this glyph means you will have to cancel the channeling effect, which is a big DPS loss. There have been so many times where I'm going to Fist of Fury, and then I have to move, and then I cancel it, and it's a big damage loss. So it's very important that you are able to move with Fist of Fury, and the stun effect isn't that important since you have leg sweep for the big trash pulls anyway. Plus, you also have your own party members to also use their sources of CC when it comes to the trash pulls. So the stun effect isn't that important. You already have leg sweep, and of course, moving is more important, especially in the boss fights. For the final glyph choice, I recommend Touch of Karma. There may be moments where you will need to karma immediately, so having that 20-yard range increase is a possible lifesaver. I'm sure it will save your life at least once out of all of the dungeons total. I'm sure if you completed all of the goals, there was at least one moment where this glyph may have been useful. At least I would think so. And now, I'm sure some of you guys are wondering why not Touch of Death in terms of the glyph. Well, the reason I do not recommend this glyph is because it increases Touch of Death's cooldown from 1.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes. With CMs being extremely quick and gear being scaled down, Touch of Death is a very strong ability, especially in boss fights. You want to get as much use out of this ability as you can, and using the glyph reduces its uptime significantly. So by not using this glyph, yes, you will have to save up 3 Chi, but it's really not that hard since most of your damage comes from Chi Torpedo anyway, and other abilities that don't really require Chi, such as Chi Burst and everything else. So the Chi is very easy to save up at whatever point, especially in a boss fight. Just make sure you have 3 Chi, and you should be able to Touch of Death no problem. It's very important to have Touch of Death every boss fight, and of course you may have some moments where you can use it in a trash pull, which can be very useful if you're killing a big mob. So the Touch of Death glyph just kind of makes that worse in my opinion. I think it's better not to run Touch of Death, but if you prefer it, of course you can replace Touch of Karma with it if you want. Now, when it comes to gear and stat priority, when gearing for CMs, you want to pick up as many items that contain either haste, multi-strike, or both of them. Currently on my monk, I have items that give me both haste and multi-strike. Now, you do get less of each one, whereas compared to one item giving you a ton of haste, you're going to get a lot more haste on that particular item, of course. So, for example, say my gloves give me 75 haste, 75 multi-strike. Well, it could be 160 haste or something, but no multi-strike. I prefer to have a mix of both because multi-strike is very useful. The haste will help with energy regeneration to allow more Chi explosions, giving you more Tiger Eye and cleave damage, so you can stack purely haste if you want. Windwalkers have multiple passives also that boost multi-strike, including Battle Trance, Tiger Strikes, and Wind Flurry, so stacking multi-strike will provide a much higher damage boost compared to, say, Critical Strike and Mastery. Now, the reason why I prefer to mix both multi-strike and haste is because I do need that energy regeneration from haste, but I also get a lot of damage from multi-strike for my Chi Torpedoes, my Chi Burst, my Fist of Fury, and every other ability. It's huge on big trash pulls, especially with the amount of Chi Torpedoes you throw out there, so I feel like multi-strike is a huge thing to stack, but you don't want to stack too much, so you also want to have a bit of haste as well. So that's why I prefer to just take it lazy, or take the lazy mode and just simply get items that have both haste and multi-strike. If you have one item that gives you purely haste, you have another item that gives you purely multi-strike, that's perfectly fine. As long as you're getting either one of those, you should be fine. For enchanting and gem sockets, I would also recommend stacking haste, since our gear scales down, lowering our haste value, which lowers our energy regeneration. However, if you are in the certain circumstance where you already have a lot of haste items, but you're lacking a bit in multi-strike, you could also stack multi-strike. Like I said, it's based on what you prefer. Just make sure you're using haste or multi-strike. Now, with the build covered, I will leave you with a few general tips when CMing as a Windwalker monk. Monks are amazing at cleave damage due to Chi Explosion, Chi Torpedo, Chi Burst, Fists of Fury to some extent, and of course Storm, Earth, and Fire. Make sure to use them together as much as you can, especially on the big trash pulls. Most of the work in a CM dungeon comes from clearing trash pulls, so this is where this is very important. Now, one of the biggest tips that you guys should know is that Chi Torpedo and Glyph of Victory Roll is one of your biggest DPS forms. Make sure your Tiger Palm and Rising Sun Kick buffs are all active, then begin to Chi Torpedo all over the trash. Unlike most AoE abilities, Chi Torpedo's damage isn't reduced based on how many targets you hit, such as Blizzard or Rain of Fire, which makes us ridiculously strong when it comes to the big trash pulls. With all of that cleave damage and having the charges restored after each kill, you reduce the time spent on trash significantly. Make sure when you Chi Torpedo that you're not flying across the map either. You want to prevent this, so the way you prevent this is to press Chi Torpedo and jump at the same time. This will significantly reduce the distance that it goes, which overall allows you to not only use abilities faster, but it's also going to reduce the risk of you pulling something that you actually don't want to. So don't forget that Chi Torpedo is one of your biggest DPS increases. Make sure you have that and Glyph of Victory Roll. It's crazy how much damage this does. For the second little tip I have for you guys, don't forget that many of your abilities also heal you and your party members. Try to aim your Chi Burst and Chi Torpedo, for example, toward party members, so they also receive healing. This will help your party a lot when it comes to mitigating damage, and possibly even saving them from having to use a defensive cooldown. There are many times on a boss fight where my entire party is taking a lot of damage, so I quickly go over to the tank and the enhancement shaman, which are the two I was running CMs with at the time that I'm making this commentary, and I would actually heal them with my 2 Chi Torpedoes, maybe 3 if I had them, as well as Chi Burst as well. So it really does help. Every little bit counts, so make sure to try and aim that healing towards your party members if you can. For my third tip, I also want to say, don't be afraid to use Touch of Karma offensively if you can afford to. If there's a pool of fire on the ground and you can risk it, sit in the pool with Karma active on the boss so they can take a lot of damage. I wouldn't really do this if you're like not in melee range. If you're in melee range hitting the boss or a mob, you can afford to Touch of Karma since it's you're still doing like your auto attacks and everything, your abilities, and you're also putting some Touch of Karma damage on it. You don't really want to go out of range just to Touch of Karma because not only is it going to be much less damage compared to if you were on the guy, but it's also going to waste your defensive cooldown since it might be better to just keep it and stay safe. For my final tip in this guide, if you can afford to, Fortifying Brew just before Touch of Death, because what this will do is it will cause Touch of Death to do a lot more damage. Touch of Death does damage to the target equal to your maximum health, so by having Fortifying Brew up, you're going to have a lot of extra health, or a much higher maximum health amount, so therefore Touch of Death is going to do a lot more damage. So this will help save a couple seconds or so in your CM if every second counts for your team, so I would recommend doing that. Otherwise, I wouldn't really risk it though if you think you won't be fine in the next 3 minutes. It does have a pretty long cooldown of 3 minutes, so in some cases you may not want to use it if you think there's going to be a huge problem within the next 3 minutes of using it. I hope this guide was very useful for you guys. If you have any questions regarding CMs, don't be afraid to leave a comment down below in terms of this build or guide. If you have any questions about CMs in general, like a certain map question, I wouldn't really ask me yet because I have other videos in the future which are going to be uploaded showing my CM runs in those certain dungeons, so I would save those questions for then. This video is specifically for the guide, so if you have any questions regarding the guide in general, don't be afraid to leave a comment. Thanks guys for watching. I hope it was useful. I hope you get CM Gold off this guide, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you on my next video, and I'll see you next time.